You are listening to HOA Control Freaks. She tried to find me for weather. I am standing in my driveway in Anchorage, Alaska, holding an ice scraper, staring at a woman who is screaming at me about a puddle that froze on the curb. The air is cold enough that every word out of her mouth comes with a cloud of frost breath, and she is pointing at the ice patch like it personally murdered her family. Her name is Rachel Martinez. She calls herself the compliance officer for the Quarry Ridge Frostline Village Association, and she has decided that I am responsible for every slip hazard, every snow pile, and every scraped curb in a 6-block radius. Right now, she is telling me that I created this specific puddle by hosing down my driveway yesterday afternoon, and that it refroze overnight into a lawsuit waiting to happen. The problem is, I did not hose down anything. The plow came through yesterday morning, left a trench of slush at the curb, and it refroze when the temperature dropped. I know this because I have a dashcam suction mount on the windshield of my work truck, and the timestamp shows the plow scraping past at 9 in the morning, 3 hours before Rachel claims I was out here with a hose. I do not correct her. I want her to commit to this lie in public, because when she doubles down in front of witnesses, it becomes evidence. Rachel is in a purple puffer coat with a black knit beanie pulled low, and she has a key ring with too many keys jingling loudly every time she gestures. She loves that sound. It makes her feel official. Behind her, a delivery driver is stuck at the curb, watching this whole scene unfold while his engine idles and plow spray mists the air around his van. She jabs a gloved finger toward the ice patch again. "I am calling management and I am going to be dramatic about it," she says, her voice sharp enough to cut glass. "This is a direct violation of winter maintenance standards, and you are going to pay the fine, or I am putting a lien on your property. I have done this before, and people fold every time. I adjust my green winter beanie and keep my face neutral. I coordinate rideshare drivers and vehicles for a living, which means I spend my days managing schedules, tracking GPS routes, and dealing with people who think rules do not apply to them. Rachel is not special. She is just louder. I moved to Anchorage 6 months ago for the job. The company needed someone local to handle dispatch during the brutal winter months, and I needed a fresh start. The neighborhood looked decent online. Affordable. Quiet. The HOA website mentioned snow removal guidelines, but I figured it was standard stuff. Shovel your walk. Do not block the plow. Keep your driveway clear. What I did not know was that Rachel had turned the winter rules into a personal crusade. She patrols the streets after every plow pass, taking photos, logging complaints, and writing up violations for things like snow piles that are 6 inches too tall or driveways that are not cleared within 4 hours of a storm. She has a spreadsheet. She has a camera. She has a vendetta. And right now, I am on probation at work. The company is watching my attendance, my punctuality, and my ability to stay focused under pressure. If I miss shifts because I am stuck in HOA hearings or scrambling to deal with fines, I lose the job. Rachel does not know this yet, but she is about to make it her problem. The delivery driver finally gives up and pulls away, shaking his head. Rachel watches him go, then turns back to me. "You think you can ignore this," she says. "You think you can just stand there and pretend you did not cause this hazard. But I have photos. I have timestamps. I have a complaint log entry, and it is going into the system today." I nod slowly. "Okay," I say. "What time did I allegedly hose down the driveway?" She does not hesitate. "Yesterday afternoon, between 1 and 2. I saw the water running off into the street, and I documented it. I let that sit for a second. The dashcam footage shows the plow at 9 in the morning. The temperature dropped below freezing by noon. If she is claiming I was out here with a hose at 1, she is either lying or she saw someone else and decided it was me. Either way, she just gave me a timeline I can disprove. I do not argue. I just thank her for the information and tell her I will see her at the hearing. She smiles like she just won, and the keys jangle as she walks back to her car. What Rachel does not know is that I have been building a timeline packet since the first notice hit my door 3 weeks ago. I have weather screenshots with no readable text showing the temperature drops. I have dashcam footage with timestamps. I have receipts for the snow stakes I bought to mark my driveway, The bright orange ones that keep disappearing every time Rachel decides to rearrange the neighborhood. And I have an ally. His name is Tom. He is a retired teacher who has lived in Quarry Ridge Frostline Village for 12 years, and he is one of the most popular people in the HOA. He hates Rachel. He has been documenting her abuses for months, and when I told him about the curb puddle accusation, he offered to be a witness. Tom also happens to know that Rachel has been running surprise inspections without board approval, stalking properties right after the plow passes, and logging complaints that are written in her own voice and then filed under anonymous. He has screenshots of the complaint log. He has emails. He has everything. But I am not deploying any of it yet. I need Rachel to escalate first. I need her to commit to her story, in front of the board, in front of witnesses, in front of people who can vote her out. Because if I drop the evidence too early, she will pivot, she will claim it was a misunderstanding, and she will come back harder. So I wait. 2 days later, I get a letter in the mail. It is from the HOA management company, and it says I have been denied access to public records unless I pay a copy fee and wait 30 days. The letter is polite, but the message is clear. Rachel is retaliating. She knows I requested the complaint log, and she is using bureaucratic delays to stop me from gathering evidence before the hearing. The hearing is in 10 days. I have a notary appointment booked for next week to certify my timeline packet, and if I miss it, the delay pushes everything back by weeks. I cannot afford that. I am already on thin ice at work, and my manager has made it clear that any unscheduled absences will trigger a review. I call Tom. He tells me to file a formal complaint with the state, citing the HOA's records denial as a violation of Alaska's nonprofit corporation transparency laws. He also tells me that Rachel has been bragging about her enforcement tactics in the neighborhood group chat, and that she slipped up and mentioned a target list. A target list. Tom sends me a screenshot. It is a leaked spreadsheet with addresses, violation types, and enforcement priority rankings. My address is highlighted in yellow. Next to it, Rachel has written, high priority, new resident, probation risk. She knows. She knows I am on probation at work, and she is using it as leverage. I screenshot the spreadsheet, I add it to the timeline packet, and I keep waiting. 3 days before the hearing, I am standing on my front porch at 7 in the morning, scraping ice off the steps, when a truck pulls up. It is not a plow. It is a private contractor with the HOA logo on the door, and 2 guys in reflective vests get out carrying bags of salt. I walk down to the curb. Can I help you? I say. One of the guys looks uncomfortable. We were told to salt your steps, he says. HOA maintenance request. I did not request maintenance, I say. He shrugs. We just do what the work order says. I pull out my phone and start recording. Who signed the work order? I ask. He does not answer. The other guy is already spreading salt on my steps without permission, and I realize what is happening. Rachel is trying to force a maintenance charge onto my account so she can claim I violated the rules by doing the work wrong, or by refusing HOA-approved contractors, or by some other invented standard. I step in front of the guy with the salt bag. Stop, I say. I did not authorize this. If you continue, I am reporting this as trespassing and vandalism. The guy freezes. The first guy pulls out his phone and makes a call. 30 seconds later, he hangs up and tells me they are leaving. No explanation, no apology. They just pack up the salt and drive away. I check the driveway afterward. The orange snow stakes are gone again, all 4 of them. I had just replaced them 2 days ago, and now they are missing. Again. I go to the hardware store and buy 8 more stakes. This time I take photos of the installation, I timestamp them, and I add them to the packet. The night before the hearing, Tom calls me. He tells me the board is planning to approve Rachel's enforcement policy as official HOA doctrine, which would give her the authority to fine anyone she wants for any snow-related issue she deems unsafe. If it passes, I lose. If it passes, everyone in the neighborhood loses. But Tom also tells me that the board president is nervous. There have been complaints. There have been rumors about Rachel's target list, about her unauthorized inspections, about her retaliation tactics. The board does not want a lawsuit, and they definitely do not want the city getting involved. Tom says he is going to speak at the hearing. He says he is going to turn the room against Rachel, but he needs me to bring the evidence and force a vote. If you are enjoying this story, please hit the like button and subscribe for more HOA chaos. I spend the next 12 hours organizing the timeline packet. I print everything. Weather screenshots, dashcam stills, receipts for the snow stakes, photos of the missing stakes, the leaked spreadsheet, the records denial letter, the unauthorized maintenance attempt. I put it all in a binder with tabs, and I practice the presentation in front of the mirror until I can deliver it in under 3 minutes. The hearing is in a courthouse hallway. The HOA does not have a dedicated meeting space, so they use a public building, which means everything is on the record. Rachel is already there when I arrive, standing near the door with her purple puffer coat and her jingling keys, talking to the board president like they are old friends. When she sees me, she smiles. "You are not going to win this," she says. "I have documentation. I have witnesses. I have a compliance history that speaks for itself." I do not respond. I just walk past her and sit down at the table. The board president calls the meeting to order. There are about 20 people in the hallway, most of them neighbors who showed up to watch. Tom is sitting in the front row. He gives me a nod. Rachel goes first. She stands up, pulls out a folder, and starts reading from her prepared remarks. She talks about safety. She talks about liability. She talks about how I created a slip hazard by hosing down my driveway, how I ignored multiple warnings, how I removed HOA-installed safety markers, and how I refused to cooperate with maintenance contractors. Every word is a lie, but she delivers it with confidence. She has photos. She has timestamps. She has a complaint log entry that was obviously written in her own voice, but she presents it as if it came from a concerned neighbor. When she finishes, the board president asks if I have a response. I stand up. I do not open the binder yet. I just look at Rachel and say, "You told me I hosed down the driveway yesterday afternoon between 1 and 2. Is that correct?" She nods. "Yes. I saw it myself." "And you are sure about the time?" I say. "Absolutely," she says. "I documented it." I open the binder. I pull out the dashcam stills. I hand one to the board president, one to the board secretary, and one to Rachel. "This is footage from my truck," I say. The timestamp shows the city plow passing my property at 9 in the morning. The slush trench was created by the plow blade, not by a hose. The temperature dropped below freezing by noon, which means the puddle refroze naturally. There was no hose. There was no water. There was no violation. Rachel's face goes pale. She looks down at the photo, then back at me. "This does not prove anything," she says. "You could have edited the timestamp." I pull out the weather screenshots. "These are from the National Weather Service," I say. "They show the temperature curve for that day. If I had been running water at 1 in the afternoon, it would not have frozen until after midnight. But the puddle was frozen solid by 3, which means it formed in the morning, right after the plow passed." The board president leans forward. "Do you have anything else?" he asks. I pull out the spreadsheet. I hand it to him without a word. He reads it. His expression changes. He looks at Rachel. "Is this yours?" he asks. Rachel does not answer. The room is silent. Tom stands up. "I would like to add testimony," he says. Rachel Martinez has been conducting unauthorized inspections, filing anonymous complaints under her own name, and retaliating against residents who request public records. I have documentation of all of it, and I am prepared to file a formal complaint with the state if this board does not take action. The board president closes the folder. He looks at Rachel. "We are going to table this vote," he says. "Pending an internal review." Rachel's face goes red. "You cannot do that," she says. "I have done this before and people fold every time." Tom smiles. "Not this time," he says. The room erupts in murmurs. People are whispering, pointing, pulling out their phones. Rachel tries to speak, but the board president cuts her off. "The meeting is adjourned," he says. Rachel storms out. Her keys jangle one last time as the door slams behind her. I pack up the binder and walk outside. Tom follows me. "That was good," he says. But it is not over. She is going to escalate. He is right. 2 days later, I get a notice taped to my door. It says the HOA is scheduling a follow-up inspection of my property and that I am required to be present. The notice is signed by Rachel, and it lists a date and time that conflicts with my work schedule. I call my manager. I explain the situation. He is not happy, but he agrees to let me shift my hours as long as I make up the time later. I cannot afford to miss this inspection, because if I do, Rachel will claim I refuse to cooperate, and that will become another violation. The inspection is scheduled for 2 p.m. on a Thursday. I take the morning off, finish my dispatch work early, and get home by 1:30. I park in the driveway, replace the missing snow stakes for the 3rd time, and wait. Rachel shows up at 2 on the dot. She is not alone. She has 2 guys in reflective vests with her, the same contractors who tried to salt my steps without permission. They are carrying clipboards, tape measures, and cameras. I step out onto the porch. This is my property, I say. You do not have permission to enter without a formal notice and a board-approved inspection warrant. Rachel pulls out a piece of paper. This is the formal notice, she says, and these are licensed contractors hired by the HOA to assess safety compliance. I take the paper. It is a photocopy of the notice I already received, and it does not include any board signatures or authorization codes. It is just Rachel's name at the bottom. This is not valid, I say. You need board approval for a property inspection. You do not have it. She steps closer. I am the compliance officer, she says. I have the authority to enforce HOA rules, and if you refuse to cooperate, I am filing an obstruction complaint. I pull out my phone and start recording. Go ahead, I say. File it. But these contractors are not stepping onto my property without a valid warrant. One of the contractors looks at Rachel. Do you have a warrant? He asks. She does not answer. The contractor shakes his head. We are not doing this, he says. He turns to his partner. Let us go. They walk back to the truck and leave. Rachel is standing on my porch, alone, staring at me like I just declared war. I am calling management and I am going to be dramatic about it, she says. You just obstructed an official HOA inspection, and I am putting this in the complaint log. I lower the phone. You do that, I say. And I am going to file a harassment complaint with the board and request a restraining order if you show up on my property again without authorization. She turns and walks away. The keys jangle. The porch is quiet. That night, Tom calls me again. The board is meeting tomorrow, he says. Emergency session. Rachel pushed for it. She wants them to vote on the enforcement policy and approve her inspection authority before you can file a countercomplaint. I ask him if he can attend. He says yes. He also says he is bringing 3 other homeowners who are ready to speak against Rachel, and that the board president is starting to crack under the pressure. The meeting is at 6 p.m. I finish work, grab the timeline binder, and drive to the courthouse. When I arrive, the hallway is packed. There are at least 40 people waiting, and most of them are holding printed complaint packets of their own. Rachel is in the corner, talking on her phone, pacing back and forth with her purple coat zipped up tight. The board president calls the meeting to order. He looks exhausted. Before we vote on the enforcement policy, he says, I want to hear from anyone who has concerns about the current compliance process. Tom stands up first. He talks about the unauthorized inspections. He talks about the retaliation tactics. He talks about the target list. He holds up the spreadsheet and reads my address out loud, along with Rachel's note about probation risk. The room goes silent. Another homeowner stands up. She talks about getting fined for a snow pile that was created by the city plow, not by her. She says Rachel refused to listen, refused to review the evidence, and threatened to put a lien on her house when she complained. Another homeowner stands up. He talks about the missing snow stakes. He says Rachel has been removing them from driveways and then writing up violations for unmarked property lines. One by one, people stand up and tell their stories. Rachel tries to interrupt, but the board president tells her to sit down and wait her turn. When everyone finishes, the board president looks at Rachel. Do you have a response? He asks. Rachel stands up. She pulls out her folder and starts reading from her prepared remarks again, but this time, her voice is shaking. She talks about safety, She talks about liability. She talks about how the neighborhood is full of people who refuse to follow the rules, and how she is the only one willing to enforce them. But then she makes a mistake. She says, "I have been doing this for years, and I have never been challenged, because people know I am right. I have done this before, and people fold every time." Tom smiles. He stands up and pulls out his phone. He plays a recording. It is Rachel's voice from a neighborhood group chat meeting 2 months ago. In the recording, she is bragging about how she targets new residents because they do not know the rules yet, and how she uses probationary employment status as leverage to force compliance. The room explodes. People are shouting. The board president is banging his gavel. Rachel is screaming that the recording is illegal, that it was taken without her consent, that it is not admissible. Tom cuts her off. Alaska is a one-party consent state, he says. The recording is legal, and it proves that you have been abusing your authority for personal gain. The board president stands up. "I am calling for an immediate vote," he says. "All in favor of suspending Rachel Martinez from the compliance officer position pending a full investigation, raise your hand." Every hand in the room goes up, including 2 of the board members. Rachel is outvoted so hard the room laughs. She grabs her folder and storms out. The door slams. The keys jangle one last time, and then she is gone. The board president looks at me. "I am sorry," he says. "We should have addressed this months ago." I nod. "I appreciate that," I say. "But I still need the enforcement policy vote tabled permanently. And I need the HOA to issue a formal apology for the harassment." He agrees. The policy is tabled, the apology is drafted, and the meeting is adjourned. I walk out into the cold. Tom follows me. "You did good," he says. But she is not done. She is going to file something. She is going to try to get you on a technicality. He is right again. 3 days later, I get a letter from a towing company. It says my truck is in violation of overnight parking restrictions, and that it will be towed within 48 hours unless I move it to an approved spot. The letter is signed by the towing vendor, but it references an HOA complaint filed by Rachel. I check the HOA bylaws. There is no overnight parking restriction. The rule does not exist. I call the towing company. I explain the situation. The dispatcher tells me they received a work order from the HOA compliance officer, and that they are required to act on it unless I provide proof that the complaint is invalid. I send them a copy of the bylaws. I send them a copy of the board meeting minutes showing that Rachel has been suspended. I send them a copy of Tom's recording. The dispatcher calls me back an hour later. "We are not towing your truck," he says. "And we are not accepting any more work orders from that woman." A tow vendor refusing to act without proper authorization. Rachel's enforcement machine is falling apart. But she is not done yet. A week later, I get a certified letter. It is from Rachel's attorney. It says I defamed her at the HOA meeting, that I violated her privacy by allowing Tom to play the recording, and that I am being sued for damages. I call a lawyer. He listens to the story, reviews the timeline packet, and laughs. "This is frivolous," he says. "She has no case. But I recommend you file a counter-complaint for harassment and abuse of process." I do. The counter-complaint includes the timeline packet, the spreadsheet, the unauthorized inspection attempt, the towing threat, and the frivolous lawsuit. I send it to the board, to the management company, and to the state HOA regulatory office. 2 weeks later, the board sends me a letter. It says Rachel has resigned from the HOA, it says the enforcement policy has been permanently tabled, and it says the association is issuing a formal apology to all residents who were targeted by unauthorized inspections. The letter also says the city has warned the HOA to stop interfering with snow routes, and that the board has publicly reversed Rachel's policy to avoid municipal fines. I frame the letter and hang it in my office. The next morning, I am standing in my driveway, replacing the snow stakes for the 4th and final time when Tom pulls up. He gets out of his car and hands me a box. "What is this?" I ask. "Open it," he says. I open the box. Inside are 8 bright orange snow stakes with reflective tape, a dashcam upgrade kit, and a bottle of whiskey. "For next winter," Tom says. just in case? I laugh. Thanks, I say. But I think we are good. He nods. You handled this the right way, he says. You did not lose your temper. You did not break any laws. You just built a case and let her hang herself. I shake his hand. I could not have done it without you, I say. He shrugs. That is what neighbors are for, he says. He drives away, and I go back to work. A month later, I get an email from the management company. It says the HOA is implementing a new transparency policy. All complaint logs will be publicly accessible, all enforcement actions will require board approval, and all inspections will require 48 hours notice and a signed warrant. The email also says the board is looking for a new compliance officer, and that they are accepting nominations from residents who want to serve. Tom nominates me as a joke. I decline. I have enough on my plate. But I do volunteer to join the Rules Review Committee, because I want to make sure the snow enforcement standards are fair, realistic, and based on actual safety concerns instead of personal vendettas. The first meeting is in 2 weeks. I am already drafting proposals. Winter in Anchorage is brutal, but the HOA drama is finally over. Rachel is gone. The enforcement policy is dead. And the neighborhood is starting to feel like a community again. I still check my dashcam footage every morning. I still replace the snow stakes when they go missing. And I still keep the timeline binder in my truck, just in case. But for the first time in months, I am not looking over my shoulder. The job is going well. My manager pulled me aside last week and told me the probationary period is over and that I am being promoted to senior dispatch coordinator. The raise is decent, the hours are better, and I finally feel like I can breathe. Tom and I grab coffee once a week now. We talk about the neighborhood, about the HOA, about life in Anchorage. He tells me stories about the old days, back when the association was run by volunteers who actually cared about the community instead of power-hungry enforcers looking for targets. He also tells me that Rachel tried to run for the board again last month, but she was voted down in the nomination round. Nobody wanted her back. Nobody trusted her. And when she showed up at the annual meeting to complain, the room went silent until she left. Karma is real, Tom says. It just takes time. I think about that a lot. I think about how close I came to losing everything because of a frozen puddle and a vindictive compliance officer. I think about how the timeline packet saved me. I think about how important it is to document everything, to stay calm, and to let people expose themselves before you deploy the trump card. Because here's the thing. I did not correct her lie. Because I wanted her to commit to it in public. And when she did, it became the foundation of her downfall. The dashcam footage was the proof. The weather screenshots were the proof. The missing snow stakes were the proof. But the real weapon was patience. I waited. I built the case. And I let her hang herself. Spring is coming soon. The snow is starting to melt. The orange stakes are still standing. And the HOA is quiet. I get a text from Tom one afternoon. It is a photo of Rachel's house. There is a for sale sign in the yard. She is moving, the text says, out of state. Good riddance. I do not respond. I just smile and delete the message. A week later, I am sitting in my truck after a long shift, watching the dashcam footage from the morning plow run, when I notice something. The timestamp shows 9:04. The plow blade scrapes past, leaving a trench of slush at the curb. The temperature gauge shows 28 degrees. It is the same footage I used at the hearing, the same evidence that destroyed Rachel's credibility, and it is still there, saved and backed up, just in case anyone ever tries this again. I turn off the camera and head inside. The house is warm, the job is stable, the neighborhood is calm, and the HOA is finally under control. I get a third-party inspection report proving the property is compliant in the mail a few days later. It is from the city, not the HOA. It says my driveway, my walkway, and my snow management practices meet all municipal safety standards. It says there are no violations, no hazards, and no enforcement actions required. I add it to the timeline binder. And then I do something I have been planning for weeks. I get the meeting to vote on the spot after the evidence is read into the minutes. The motion passes unanimously. The new transparency policy is official. The complaint log is public. And the enforcement process is finally fair. Tom sends me a congratulations text. "You did it," he says. "You beat the system." "I did not beat the system," I reply. "I just made it work the way it was supposed to." He sends back a thumbs up. A month later, the HOA holds its annual meeting. The board president announces that the association is implementing a new conflict resolution process, with mediation before enforcement, transparency in all actions, and accountability for officers who abuse their authority. The room applauds. People are smiling. The tension that has hung over the neighborhood for years is finally lifting. I do not run for the board. I do not volunteer for compliance. I just sit in the back and watch the process unfold, knowing that the work I did, the timeline I built, and the patience I showed made this moment possible. After the meeting, a woman approaches me. She is new to the neighborhood. She tells me she heard about what happened with Rachel, and that she wants to thank me for standing up. "You made this place safer for all of us," she says. I shake her hand. "Just document everything," I say. "And do not let anyone bully you into backing down." She nods and walks away. Tom catches up with me in the parking lot. "You know you are a legend now," he says. "People are going to be telling this story for years." I laugh. "I just wanted to keep my house," I say. He claps me on the shoulder. "You did more than that," he says. "You changed the culture." We stand there for a moment, watching the neighbors file out of the courthouse, talking and laughing and looking relieved. It is a good feeling. The next morning, I wake up to a clear sky and temperatures above freezing for the first time in weeks. The snow is melting, the orange stakes are still standing, and the driveway is clear. I check the dash cam. No plow. No inspections. No drama. Just a quiet morning in Anchorage, Alaska, where the HOA finally learned that enforcement without accountability is just harassment, and that people who abuse power eventually lose it. The timeline binder is still in my truck, the attorney is still on speed dial, and the evidence is still backed up in 3 places. But I do not think I will need it again. Because the HOA dropped the case to avoid a public records mess, and Rachel is gone, and the neighborhood is healing. I grab my ice scraper, head out to the truck, and start my day. The job is good, the house is safe, and the fight is over. Thanks for watching, and I will catch you in the next one.